Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a story about love and a single, unasked question that held a couple's entire future in the balance. And all of this is happening right as the world was being plunged into war. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in San Diego. It's late 1941. Pearl Harbor just happened. And for this young couple, Betty and Fred, the world has just been turned completely upside down. You know, the future they thought was a clear path? Well, now it's just a giant question mark. So, in this first part, we're going to look at how Betty and Fred reacted to all this uncertainty. And what they did is fascinating. Instead of pulling apart, they actually leaned in, creating this kind of private little world for themselves, even as war was looming right on the horizon. They fill these precious days off with these really simple, beautiful joys. You know, they go to museums where Betty gets to share her passion for art. They escape to the mountains for a completely spontaneous snowball fight. Just this perfect moment of fun that cuts right through all the tension. And at the zoo, a really simple act becomes this profound moment of shared dreams. See, each of these moments, it's not just a date, right? It's them building a shared history, brick by brick, against a future that is totally up in the air. Now, what I find absolutely fascinating here is the shift in Fred's language. He's not just talking about if, he's talking about when. He's painting this incredibly vivid picture of their future, a future with children. For Betty, this takes a hopeful dream and makes it feel like a real concrete plan. All right, let's fast forward to New Year's Eve. Now, this isn't just a party. This is a night that really solidifies their commitment, in their own minds and in front of all their friends. It raises the stakes for what everybody assumes is going to happen next. The whole evening, it just unfolds like a classic romance movie. There's a fancy dinner, champagne toasts, a party where they just dance the night away. It's all building towards this one single pivotal moment as the clock ticks down, with the radio broadcasting the countdown live from Times Square. And as he pulls her close, Fred whispers this promise. For Betty, hearing those three words, our year, it cements an expectation. In her mind, 1942 is no longer just some date on a calendar. It's become a destination for their relationship. But that holiday hope, it quickly crashes into the pretty harsh reality of January and February. The war effort ramps up big time. Fred is now working these grueling hours at Roar Aircraft. We're talking 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. So their time together just shrinks to a few precious hours on Wednesday nights. And that romantic promise from New Year's Eve? Yeah, it starts to feel very, very far away. And this growing tension, it brings us right to the emotional climax of the story, Valentine's Day. It's a night that's just filled with these perfect little moments and one profound, glaring omission. Fred sets the stage absolutely perfectly. I mean, he shows up with expensive red roses. He takes her to an exclusive restaurant that she's only ever heard about. They get the best table in the house, right by the window with this breathtaking sunset view. Every single detail is just screaming special occasion. So for Betty, every sign is pointing to one thing. Tonight is the night. And right here, you can just feel the agonizing tension of the evening. They talk, they eat, the ambiance is perfect, but the one moment she's so desperately hoping for, it never arrives. Fred never reaches for a ring. He never asks the question. The drive home is just heavy with a silence that Fred absolutely cannot ignore. He finally pulls the car over and asks the question that changes everything, forcing this whole issue out into the open. Betty, what's wrong? And this brings us to our final section. This is where that deep, deep disappointment gives way to a difficult, but really honest conversation that reveals the disconnect at the very heart of their relationship. And with that, the truth just comes tumbling out. Betty's vulnerability, it just breaks the tension. She lays bare all of her hopes for the evening and her crushing disappointment, admitting that, yeah, maybe her expectation wasn't fair, but her feelings are very, very real. And now we learn that Fred's hesitation has absolutely nothing to do with the lack of love. It's rooted in this incredibly deep sense of responsibility. See, he watched his widowed mother struggle, and his number one priority is financial stability. For him, doing it right means being able to provide for his family from day one. And right here, this is the heart of their conflict. It wasn't about a lack of love at all. It was about two totally different definitions of security in an incredibly insecure time. Betty needed the emotional security of a formal commitment. But Fred, he needed the financial security to feel like he could be the provider he was so determined to be. So the evening ends not with a ring, but with something you could argue is even more important. clarity, understanding, and a new, really concrete promise. Fred gives her a timeline. He gives her a certainty. He's not just going to propose, he's going to make it unforgettable. And so, Betty and Fred's story leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? In our own lives, when we're faced with uncertainty, do we prioritize emotional security or practical security? It's a really powerful look at how we define what being ready for a commitment truly means, especially when the future is anything but certain.